Hi guys, I hope I'm audible to everyone. If yes, please drop a message on the chat box so we can continue. Gurmeet Ishita says yes. Okay. I would like everyone to say an yes if I audible to you guys. This is going to be an interactive session, so please request you guys to interact as much as possible. Garima says yes. Okay, nice. So I see a lot of yeses coming in. Great. So we are all set to go forward. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this extraordinary session on a guide to studying PhD abroad. So, before we get started, I wanted to let you know who we are and what we do. So, Galvanize Global Education provides end-to-end personalized solution for students and working professionals who are planning to pursue a higher degree, a degree abroad. We help with their GRE, TOEFL, IELTS, SAT preparations. We also help them with their bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees and also assist them with education loans. Galvanize is founded and managed by alumni of Stanford, IIT Madras, and IIM Ahmedabad. So students from 65 plus countries have chosen Galvanize for their degree abroad. You name the country and you will find it over here. We have helped students to reach 1,000 plus universities across 18 plus countries. You take US, UK, Canada, Australia, name the country, and we will be ready to help you. So Galvanize is like very much famous in Quora. Like you can view our Quora threads where people have spoken about us. Like 70% of people says Galvanize is best for GI preparation and admission counselors. So we have helped people to in 140 plus specializations. So here's our host. Meet Miss Jayanthy Ramakrishnan, who has graduated with a PhD degree from University of Tennessee. At Galvanize, she works as a global admissions head. She has helped tons of people like you to achieve their dream of studying abroad. You take it PhD, you take it masters, you take it MBA. She is the one who takes care of everything. So today she is here. She's going to explain you everything about PhD. So Jayanti ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Sahil.
Ma'am, your
Hi,
voice
everyone.
is a bit faint. Yeah,
Is
now
better?
yeah, it's better.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Sahil, for the introduction. I'm glad to see so many of you interested in doing a PhD, and I'm hoping that in today's session, I will be able to cover all the information that you need to know about what a PhD is, how you go about applying, and things like that. I'll share some experiences that I have had during my PhD years. And we'll also have a question answer session. In the meantime, as I'm going through the slides, you guys can type up your questions in the chat box. And I have two of my colleagues who will be also answering your questions in the chat box as you post them. I'll also answer your questions, any unanswered questions, I'll also answer them at the end of the session. So let's start. I'll just share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to begin by giving you a quick highlight of the session about what are the things that I'm going to cover in the session today. Under each topic, I will talk in detail as much as I can and give you all the information. So we'll start with some very general information about what a PhD is, what it entails, how do you know that you are going to do a PhD or you are the right candidate for a PhD. Once we have covered that, I will talk about some destinations that you can choose for your PhD. I'll give you the pros and cons of a few of the popular countries that our students normally go to and what we have seen in the past few years. I'll talk about the intake seasons for the PhD programs. What are the requirements? What are the things that you need to satisfy to be an ideal PhD candidate? The application timelines. And I will also talk to you about a few of our PhD students whom we have helped achieve their dream of doing a PhD. Okay, so let's start the session. So what is a PhD? So I'm sure that all of you know what a PhD is. It's basically a highest degree that you can achieve at the university. If you have achieved a PhD, it basically means that you have the ability to do meaningful research in your chosen area of field. It means that you have the ability to carry on through the process, strive to do good research and make sure that whatever work you are producing is of good quality. And this is not something that you just do and finish. It's actually assessed by the universities, as you may know. And the way it is assessed is by looking at your substantial research project that you will have to write down, which is called as a dissertation, and then present to the exam committee or your supervisory committee. That is called as a defense presentation. Only after you have done that, you are officially given the PhD degree. Now, once you have graduated with a PhD, you can then decide what kind of career you want to do, you want to be in. You can go either into the academic field where you can be a professor and then guide future students like you were guided once upon a time. Or if you don't want to deal with that, you just want to be in the research area, you can go into the research option where there are numerous labs all over the world where you will be able to get a very good research position. Or if you want a combination of research and industry, then you can go into the industry, which also requires amount of research, the ability to do research in one of the top companies where research is actually very important, and go into an industry career. So this is what a PhD is basically about. Now, what happens when you actually start doing a PhD? Okay, so I'm sure that all of you must have already done research on how to apply for a PhD. And some of you may have also talked to other people who have done a PhD to understand their experience. But if you haven't, then I just want to give you a brief overview of what actually happens when you enroll for a PhD and go into a university. Okay. So now these are some very general guidelines that I'm going to talk about. It is going to vary from country to country. So when we reach the countries part of this session, I will talk about the specifics of each country. Okay. So I just want to give you a general idea right now. So first, you have got an admit, you have got your visa, you have gone to your dream university to start your PhD program. What happens first is, based on your profile, based on what you have already done in your bachelor's or your master's, you will need to do some coursework. Now, if you see in my slide, I have written if needed. So this is something that is entirely a profile-based thing. If you have the relevant experience, if you have the relevant coursework, this coursework requirement is not there. So this is again something which is not a rule that has to be done, but generally you start with the coursework, or you may start with some coursework which you have not completed before, but you will need as per your research advisor. Generally, a PhD is done with a research advisor or a guide. So you will be assigned a research advisor either by your department at the time of admission, or you will have the option of going there, talking to various professors, and then seeing who is able to guide you in your interested area. So the first year, along with the courses, you will get acquainted, you will acquaint yourself with the research advisor. You will acquaint yourself with the lab that he works in if there is a lab component involved in the research. Sometimes what happens is, especially in some sciences like pharmacology, pharmacy, and things like that, the university wants to give the students the options of choosing the lab. In such cases, what happens is you are admitted into the department, and every few months you have lab rotations. So you work in different labs in the department. And then at the end of your lab rotation term, you will be able to decide which lab you want to work the best in, or which lab you want to work in and under whom you want to do your PhD. So that is also an option. Okay. Now, once you have done all of this groundwork, the next thing you have to do is actually come up with a research proposal. So I will tell you in detail later about what a research proposal is. But basically, in a research proposal, you have to identify what is the area of research you're going to work on, what is the problem you're going to solve. And this you will do in conjunction with your research advisor, get the approval from the committee. There will be an examinations committee or a dissertation committee, as it is called. Get their approval, and only then you will become a PhD candidate, an official PhD candidate. Okay, this is called as a proposal defense. Now, in addition to this, there is something called as a qualifying exam. This is generally only for the USA, not for the other countries. A qualifying exam basically tests your understanding of your chosen field of research, and it tests your ability to conduct research. Okay, so I will talk a little bit more about the qualifying exam when I specifically talk about USA. When you have completed the proposal defense and cleared your qualifying exams, you become an official PhD candidate. Now the real work starts. What you need to do now is start doing the research. You need to start reading a lot of work that is done by the experts in your field. You need to start networking with the researchers in your field, get ideas from them, and also see how the ideas or how the work that they have done, how you can actually implement it in your research. Okay. This is extremely important that you do good amount of networking during your PhD program, because this also opens up your options for after PhD careers. Okay. You need to submit papers to conferences and journals. Ideally, what you need to do is, as you start doing research, at the same time, you start need to writing papers and sending it out for reviews to various journal publications, to various conferences. This basically gives you an idea, because you get feedback from the experts in your field as to what is missing in your work, or how it can be improved, or why it is not clear. This really helps you in gaining more understanding of the project and how you need to change your style of working. Also, these examples of conferences and all that will give you again a chance to network with people, with experts in your field, and that again builds your network. Now, when you're at the last leg of the PhD, what you need to do is start writing your dissertation. This again is a document where you will put in all the research that you have done over the last 3, 4, or 5 years and present it to your committee. They will go through the document, give you corrections. You will do all that. You will also have to present your work, and that is called as the oral defense exam. Only when these two things are cleared and you have submitted your final dissertation, that is when you officially you get your PhD degree. Okay. So you have to remember that the PhD process is not a sprint. It is a marathon. It goes on for 4 years, 5 years, and some cases even 6 or 7 years, depending on the research you're doing, depending on the program in the university and things like that. So you have to be very strong to make sure that you have the ability to do the research. You cannot go into a PhD program for the wrong reasons. You need to have the motivation to do the research and carry on even when things get hard. So it is very, very important that you take some time, self-reflect and think, okay, is this what I want to do? Is this how I want to go ahead? So I don't want to discourage you, but I just want to give you all the ideas that you should be thinking about when you decide that you want to go for a PhD program. Okay. Okay. Now let's talk. So we have a general idea about the process, about the PhD program. Now let's see how we can get a good PhD admission. Okay. So to begin with, you need to know which country should you choose as your PhD destination, as the university, which country should you apply to? Okay. So what I've done here is I have basically divided it as USA, Canada, and other countries. I'll tell you the reason why I did that. USA has a different process. Canada has a more rigid and structured process. The other countries, when I talk about the other countries, I'm talking about the European countries, and I'm talking about Australia, Singapore, and all that. They have a more of a similar process. Now, in the next few slides, I will also be talking about each country again in detail. So let me first give you an overview of what I'm saying. Okay. Now let's talk about USA first. Now, the first thing you need to know in USA is that if you want to apply for a PhD program, you do not need to have a master's degree. Master's degree is not mandatory for applying for a PhD program. Now, this is very good, because if somebody is really motivated to do their PhD and knows at their undergraduate level that they want to do a PhD, then they can, straight away apply for a PhD program. But what are the disadvantages of this? When you apply for a PhD program directly after your bachelor's, okay, you are competing with people who have already completed their master's and then applying for a PhD. So your competition is very high. So that is one thing that you have to keep in mind. Second thing is that if you directly go into a PhD program, you will still have to take the qualifying exam. You will still have to do all the initial coursework because you may not have the relevant backgrounds or relevant knowledge to take the qualifying exam. So that is why under US, I have put that you have to take 2 to 3 years of coursework, and the duration of completing the program is going to be about 5 to 6 years. Okay, because in that 5 to 6 years, you are going to spend 2 to 3 years doing coursework, doing lab rotations, seeing which research you want to work in. So the research work is going to be minimal in the first year, definitely, and slightly more in the second year. Okay. Now, I also want to raise one point here. Most of the times, students assume that a PhD degree means a fully funded degree. So I will, even though I only want to do a master's, I'm going to apply for a PhD because I will get full funding. And then once I finish my master's, I will just quit the PhD program. Now, this is a very wrong attitude to have because universities are aware of these things. So if you decide that I'm going to enroll for a PhD program, but I'm going to quit after my master's, it may not work out well for you because you may end up leaving the degree without even a master's degree. And this can cause problems for you, especially if you're an international student on visa over there. Okay. So like I said before earlier in the slide, please be very sure that you want to do a PhD program. And if you are going to take it up, you are going to finish it through or complete it through. Okay. Standardized tests normally are the GRE is required, and of course the IELTS and TOEFL if you're an international student. GRE these days has become optional. Many universities are saying you don't need to take it. We generally tell all our students to take the GRE because it is a profile enhancer. If something is, lacking in your profile, taking the GRE can help you show that you have the perseverance to complete the program. Okay. Projects, one has to apply to the department first and work on the project. What this means is when you're doing a PhD, when you're making a PhD application, you are going to apply to the grad school, and they are going to pass on your application to the department. So you don't have to find an advisor first. They will basically look at your profile, and if they like it, they will give you a admit with an assistantship, or they may give you an admit with an assistantship from the departments. And then once you go there, you find an advisor, it will then translate into a research assistantship or a teaching assistantship. Okay, so that is the process in USA. Now, Canada has a much structured and rigid program when it comes to PhD. It is not as flexible as the US when it comes to PhD. Okay, so to apply to Canada, you need to have a master's degree. It will also take you 4 to 5 years to complete the program, in which again 2 to 3 years will be coursework. Now, this coursework, even though you have completed your master's, will be a little more advanced because you will need some of these courses to successfully do your research. So again, the coursework is not something that is common for all the students. It will be it will be discussed and decided by your advisor on what courses you need to take that will help you do the research. Students will have to appear for exams like GRE, IELTS, or TOEFL. This again depends on the requirement of the university. Now, the important thing with Canada is that you need to have a supervisor approval before even applying. So I'll talk about this a little more when we do the country specific things. Now, coming to the other countries. Now, here the general rules that I'm going to tell apply for these countries, most of the European countries, Singapore and Australia. Okay. Now here, it is often required that you have a master's degree before you apply for a PhD. Now, the interesting thing that you need to note for European countries is that looking for a PhD program is essentially like looking for a job. So if you're looking for a job, what you'll do is you will go into the company website, look at the listings available, and then apply for those job positions if you think it is interesting and it matches your profile and requirements. You have to do the same thing for a PhD program also. So these listings are either posted by the respective professors or the research groups on the company websites or on websites like findphd.com. Okay. What you need to do is you need to go and look and see what options are available. So if you have a university in mind, you need to go and see in that program, see what are the options they have listed over there. And only if there is a vacancy listed, you can even apply. Otherwise, even if you apply, you're not going to receive any answer because they don't have any vacancy there. Now, why is this the case? Because the way it works is every university gives their department certain amount of funding to recruit PhD students and conduct research. So the research groups or the professors will put up a listing only when they have the funding. So that is why the good thing about the whole process is, you know that if you apply and you get it, you know that you're going to get it with an assistantship. You're not going to get a PhD program without any assistantship. Okay. So this also makes it very difficult and very competitive because many students think that, oh, I'm going to get it in Europe because it's going to be a fully funded program. So let me just apply there. That is not the case. Again, it has to be a right match with the research program, with the vacancy that is available. So you need to do all of these research very well ahead of time so that you have enough time to look at all your options and then go ahead with the process. Now, obviously, there are some advantages of this process also, because now that you're going into a specific research group, which is aligned with your interest and your profile, the coursework is not mandatory. Okay, so you may or may not have to do any coursework. You may have to do very minimal coursework depending on the requirements of the research that you're doing. Students are also not necessarily required to write the GRE. The English language proficiency test may be waived in some cases, but even if it's waived by the university, at many times you are needed to take it at the time of visa. Okay, so that is something again you have to look into, make sure you have enough time to take those things. Okay, the kind of projects you will work on, again, like I said, it's like a job listing. If there is a listing, you know what project you are going to be working right at the beginning itself. Now, coming to job opportunities, obviously being the biggest economy in the world, US has the most job opportunities in all sectors. Canada is a little bit difficult to find, and obviously with all the little bit of, unforeseen circumstances that have happened in Canada in the last few months with respect to international students, housing shortage and things like that, things are not very clear there right now. Other countries, job opportunities are there, but again, it's a little bit of a challenge to find, but you can definitely find them if you're in, if you have the right profile, if you have the right network, the contacts and everything. Okay. Okay. So moving on, what are the requirements to apply for a PhD? So the academic grades is first and foremost the main thing. You need to make sure you have the correct or the right grades to apply. When I say the right grades, what I mean is out of 4, you need to have at least a GPA of 3.2 to be eligible for a PhD program. Now, I'm not saying that if you don't have 3.2, you cannot apply. You just have to make sure then the other parts of your profile are very strong and it makes up for the, less academic grade. You also have to address that issue why you have got less grades in your SOP document. Okay. Previous research work. This is extremely important because, as I was telling you before, most of the PhD positions are funded positions. In such cases, it's not just you who is applying to the university or the professor is also making an investment in you. So it is very, very important that he or she can see that you have the ability to do research. And that is showcased by the previous research work you have done, the papers that you have published with respect to that research, any projects that you have undertaken which show that you have done the research and applied it to something. So these three things are very important. Obviously, if you have done your master's, then the master's thesis plays a very important role in your application process as well. Test scores, again, like I said before, they may be mandatory, they may not be mandatory, but if you take it, it will definitely boost your profile. Now, what about excellent LORs? Now, the reason why I put excellent LORs, just as I said a few minutes ago, the university or the professor or the lab is making an investment in you. So they want to know that the candidate they have chosen for the PhD is the right candidate. And they will always look for some experts in the field to vouch for your candidacy. And that is something that you can get from the professors that you have worked with in your college. If you are in a job, then you know your manager or your supervisor. If you have done internships, then your internship manager. If you have any publications, then your co-authors. So these are people who will be able to vouch for your work ethic, the quality of your work. So that becomes very, very important when you are applying for a PhD. Okay. Strong SOP. Now, this is something that is very important. It is not just a document where you list in all the things that are there in your CV or your resume. No, this is something which explains your academic journey. So you have to basically start with your motivation for getting into a particular field of research. You have to say what your inspiration was, or was it some incident? Was it a person? Why did you decide that this is what you're going to do? Once you have done that, you need to show how you have taken steps to fulfill that research interest. What have you done? What are the important things that you have done during your college, during your master's, and so on. And then you also need to be able to say, okay, with this research experience, this is what I can bring to your university. This is how I will be a value addition to your lab, to your program. For that, it is very important that you do the necessary research on every program or every university that you're applying to. You look at every research interest of the professor that you want to work with and see how you can be a puzzle in his part of his puzzle. Okay, so all this has to come out in a strong SOP. Now, I also have one more thing called as co-curricular activities. All the universities in the world look for diversity in their student population. And the way to bring in diversity is something that you do outside the academic area. So if you are working with some kind of an NGO, if you are doing some kind of a social work, if you have some other tie-ups where you're doing something which is not completely related to your academic, but it's also very important work which provides, which will lead to the development of humanity and things like that. Those are things that you need to highlight in the co-curricular activities. Okay, so keep these things in mind. Again, these are all not things that every box has to be checked. Some of it may be checked for some of you, some of it may not be. That is perfectly okay. What you need to do is you need to prepare an application package which highlights the things that you have done well. The things that you have not done well also should be mentioned so that you can say that what were the challenges you faced as to why you were not able to do it and how you overcame it. And whatever is missing, you can say that, okay, this is the reason I missed it, or how you will make up for it. So that is what makes a good application package for a PhD. Okay. Now, let's specifically talk about the countries. Okay, so I'm specifically first going to talk about UK. UK, in my opinion, has the most flexible PhD program. It offers the doctorate of philosophy. It also offers a professional doctorate. Now, the doctorate of philosophy, you already know about. The professional doctorate is someone who has been in the industry for some time and who wants to, make a career shift or wants to go into the research field. That is a person who will be eligible for a professional doctorate. Now, the nice thing about the professional doctorate is that it gives you the flexibility of working in the industry, using that experience to do a PhD. And then after you finish the PhD, you can go either into academia or you can go back to the industry. So that is the nice thing about the professional doctorate. Now, UK also has these MPhil and master's research programs, which are more research-based master's programs. They are generally 18-month programs. At the end of the 18 months, you can then move on to a PhD. So it's basically like a preparatory course for the PhD. Okay. So these are the nice options that you have in UK. The good thing about a PhD in UK is that it's also only of 3 years. And the cost also, if you see, is reasonably less as compared to the other countries. With respect to supervisors, you generally have two supervisors, a primary supervisor who takes care of your academic progress, who is ready to give you feedback, who talks about your research and things like that. You also have a secondary professor, secondary supervisor who will take care of your professional growth and see what kind of networking you can do and these kind of things. So that is the advantage of doing a PhD in UK. I want to talk a little bit more about the professional doctorate. Recently, we had a student who finished his master's in Netherlands, actually. I know this is UK, but I just want to give you that example here. He finished his master's in automotive engineering from Eindhoven Institute of Technology. After that, he had an option to either go into industry or do a full-fledged PhD. But then he found out this option of an engineering doctorate, where it is a 3-year program similar to the professional doctorate. And the nice thing about that was he had to take 1 year of coursework in his university. And for the rest of the 2 years, he would be associated with an industry which has a tie-up with his university. So he had two advisors, one an academic advisor and one an advisor from the industry. So at the end of the doctorate, he is going to have enough academic experience of research as well as good industry experience. So, and he is going to still have a doctorate degree at the end of it. So these are some of the nice options that are available these days. So you guys should definitely think about these options as well. If you're not very sure, if you're very sure that you don't want to go entirely into an academic career, you want to keep the option of the industry career also open, then these are some options you can look at. Okay, coming to Canada. Like I already told you before, Canada has a very structured and a very rigid PhD program. The length of the program is 4 to 5 years. You need to have some coursework done at the beginning. And the important thing that you need to know is that you need to have a supervisor consent even to apply to the program. So what you need to do is, if you decide that Canada is a place where I want to go and do my PhDs, then you should right away start contacting professors to know that if they have especially look at the website, see whose professors' interests are aligned with your interests. They don't have to be 100% alignment, but it has to be similar. And send them your profile, send them the details of your research, send them your resume, CV, and start making contacts with them. Now, it is very common that you may not receive replies for some time, but you need to make sure that you're doing your part of emailing the professors, doing your research, trying to get in touch with them and all that, so that you are able to build the necessary contact before you even apply. Okay, so that is the information about Canada. I have put the costs also here. Now, again, these are costs that are very general costs. It may vary from university to university. We will be able to give you the specific costs when we actually do a shortlist for you, when we work with you, when we understand your requirements. And that is the time we will give you the actual cost. So the costs that I have put in the slides are very general costs for you to get an idea. Okay. Now, PhD in Germany. Like I said before, a PhD in Germany or any European country is basically like applying for a job. You need to make sure that you are able to connect with, you need to make sure that you apply to universities which have posted a vacancy. So now the nice thing about this is you can straight away on day one start doing the research. The coursework required is minimum. So you are cutting down on time needed to do the coursework. So your length of your PhD will entirely depend upon your research program, how long it takes for you to achieve your set out the results that you set out to get at the time of your proposal. So that is why I put that the length of the PhD depends on your research. Now, the interesting thing that attracts most students is the cost of the PhD is almost free. That is true because, like I said, it's a posting. Only if there is a vacancy, you can apply to it. The vacancy comes in only when the research grant is approved for a particular professor or a particular research lab. So obviously, if you fit all the requirements and if you are offered the PhD position, then it comes as a fully funded position most of the times. Okay, so that's why I have put that the cost of the PhD is almost free. The word almost because you may have to pay some administrative fees and so on. So those are things, again, we will be able to guide you only when we know what kind of program you're applying to, what university and so on. Okay. A PhD in the US, like I told earlier, this is the most flexible place that you can get your PhD. There are a number of universities. So based on your profile, you can apply to any type of university, the top ranked ones, the mid ranked ones, or wherever you want to go. My personal suggestion to you guys is for any country, not for US alone. Don't get hung up on the ranks a lot. Yes, it is definitely, I'm not going to say that getting a PhD from a high ranked university has no value. That is not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to tell you is that always look at the program. When you're doing a PhD, it is very, very important that you are able to relate to the research you're doing. You are able to work with that professor and so on. So it's very important that you like the program that you're doing, like the research that you're doing, because like I said, it is a long process. It's a 5-year process. So you don't want to be stuck in some university where you're not happy with the program. So before looking at the ranking of the program, always take time to look at the research that is done over there. So that at the end of the day, you are happy with what you're working on and you because obviously when you do research on something that you really like, you're going to get better results than when you do something that you don't like. Okay, so this is the this. So I think US I explained already. You need to do the coursework. You can apply even after your bachelor's program. You don't need to have a master's. You will need to take the qualifying exam. Here again, an interesting thing is if you do a master's in a particular university, and if you are showing intent or if a professor is interested in funding you for a PhD program because you have done so well in the master's program in the same department, there is always a chance that your qualifying exam requirement will be waived. Now, I'm not saying this always happens. This entirely depends on the relationship that you have with your advisor and what are the rules that are set by the department. So these are some of the advantages of doing a master's first, and then if you continue to do a PhD in the same university, these are some of the advantages that you may be able to get. Okay. Again, most of the PhD programs that are offered in the US do come with funding. Either it comes with a research assistantship wherein you will be assigned to a professor or a lab and you will be doing 20 hours of research every week. That is not some research that is just doing, you have to do for the sake of getting the stipend. No, it is some research that will go into your dissertation finally. You may also get a teaching assistantship where you will be asked to teach a class of a related field to an undergraduate program maybe. Okay. Now this again is very important because if you do decide to go into the academic career after your PhD, some teaching experience is definitely helpful. Because just because you are a good researcher does not mean you will be a good teacher. So this TA is a time for you to experience that part of it also. If you're not assigned to any lab, but you're still a PhD candidate, you may get a departmental assistantship, which is also called as a graduate assistantship, wherein once you go there, you will be told what kind of work you need to do to avail that assistantship. Okay. One more thing that I want to point out about the qualifying exam in the US, even though you have a specific area of research, the qualifying exam will be about that area as well as related areas. So to give you an example, for example, you want to do a PhD in control systems. Okay, and your control systems PhD research is offered in the mechanical engineering department. So when you write the qualifying exam there, you will need to know mechanics, you will need to know computational fluid dynamics, you will need to know any other mechanics related to mechanical engineering related topics as well. So that is why it is very, very important that you go into a PhD program where you also have knowledge about the other related fields. Okay. I know for the US, you need it for the qualifying exam, but for even other countries, if you go to a related field, it will also make it easier for you to relate because you will also have understanding of the other necessary subjects that are needed for the program. Okay. PhD in Singapore, this is a country which offers a very short duration of PhD. So if you see that the length of the PhD is generally 2 years to 5 years, again, entirely depending upon the type of research you're doing and how involved your research is or how difficult your research is. The one disadvantage of Singapore is that because of the limited number of universities and because of the top ranked universities there, the quality, the competition is extremely high. So you want to make sure that you get your applications way in early, and you also make sure that you are again networking with the professors, making sure that you're contacting the professors in your area of research and so on. Okay. One more thing that I forgot to tell when I was talking about Europe is that um, okay, you have specific timelines to apply, but in Europe, because it's like a job posting, there may not be specific timelines. Most of the universities will be open year round. So you have to keep an eye out for when the posting comes in and when it is going to close. Because the moment they find an ideal candidate, they are going to take that candidate and close the posting. So I'll talk a little bit more about that when I do the timelines in the next few slides. Okay. PhD in Australia is again a very structured program. Normally, the length of the PhD is 3 years and the cost is around 22,000 Australian dollars per year. Now, the interesting thing about Australia again is that they want to attract the best talent. So the admission process is quite rigorous. What happens is you send your applications to the university, which then goes to the specific department that you're applying to. And here again, every professor is given some amount of grant. So they go through their applications and then they ask for a specific student. Now, the way it works is they actually interview the students who are applying for a PhD because they want to make sure that the student that they are going to invest the money on, they are going to guide for the next few years, are actually very good candidates. So many universities I know have an interview process for their PhD candidates, but Australia also has. So this is something that is followed by most of the G8 universities in Australia. Again, like I said, the positions that are offered generally by these universities are fully funded positions because they want to make sure that when you are there to do your PhD, you are not worried about other things like living expenses or how to pay the tuition fees and all that. They want you to completely focus on the research work, on the work that they're giving you to do and successfully complete a PhD. Because obviously, if you do great in your PhD, it is also something, it adds value to the university as well. So it's very important that the PhD students are kept happy. Hence, most of the universities, when they give out admits, they give out with a fully funded program. You just have to make sure that your application is worth it, as in you make your application so strong that they are able to justify giving you that funding. Okay. Okay, now let's talk about the intake seasons. So again, here, this is a very general thing that I'm going to tell you about. In the US and Canada, we have something called as the fall and the spring semesters. And in other countries, we have the autumn, winter and summer semesters. Now here, most of the times, the fall semesters are the popular semesters. Basically, the scholarship options are more at that time. Secondly, most of the courses that you have to take are offered generally, especially for a PhD program, you may have to take 2 or 3 part courses. So the first part of a course is always offered in the fall semester, and then the second part is offered in the spring semester. So it's ideally, you want to start a PhD program in the fall semester. I'm not saying that there are no options in the winter semester, but this is the general trend that we have observed. Now, having said that, let me talk about the timeline for the Europe universities. Like I said, because it's a posting, so you never know when a university will have a requirement. So you need to be checking this at all times and making sure that as soon as a listing shows up, you immediately apply for that position. So what that means is you need to have done all the research before about that university and be ready to apply, have the necessary documents that you can apply. Because there is no specific coursework that is attached to a PhD program, you can start at any time. Okay. Even though the universities have deadlines and all that mentioned, but it is known that um, if they find the right candidate who is ready to start right away, then they are ready to give you give you the option right away. Of course, if you are doing your bachelor's here, or if you're doing your master's here, you cannot go right away. You will have to finish your master's and then go. But that does not mean that you cannot apply to a position as soon as it opens up. So please keep that in mind if you're looking for PhD options in Europe, that you need to start doing the networking, you need to start looking at professors, you need to start looking at universities right away and not wait for any specific time. Okay. You don't know when it will click. So you need to start emailing the professors right away. You don't have to write like an elaborate email, basically a nice, good email which is concise about your research. If you have a research proposal ready, you need to attach that to the email and make sure that you keep emailing the professor and keep following up. Okay. I will talk about the research proposal also shortly. Okay. Now, this is the general timeline that you have to follow when you are applying for a admission. Now, let's say that you want to apply for your admission, say you're finishing your master's or you're finishing your bachelor's this year, and you want to apply for the next year, which means that you should have started the process more than a year in advance. Now, why more than a year in advance? Because like I said, in PhD, research is very important. The research starts at the point of even researching your professor or researching the interest that you want to see, which are the universities that you can apply to. So that is something you need to really start doing as early as possible, as soon as you have decided that you are going to do a PhD. If you're taking the GRE, you need to take the GRE before September. If you're if you're doing your undergrad, then you can even take your GRE in the second or the third year of your undergrad. If you're doing your master's, then you can take it in the first year of your master's. If you're in your second year of master's and if you haven't taken the GRE and if you think that you will need to take the GRE, then you should take it right away. Okay. You will need to take the TOEFL or the IELTS. So if you're an international student, like I said, most of the times the English language proficiency is not waived. So it's better that you take that exam. Gathering of the SOPs and the LORs and the research proposal. Now here, it doesn't mean that you have to have a finalized version, but you need to start thinking about what you're going to write in these documents. If you're going to look for LOR recommenders, you need to start talking to your recommenders and see who are the recommenders who are going to give you the best recommendations. You need to start thinking about how are you going to write your journey in the statement of purpose. What is the research idea that you are going to bring in your research proposal? So these are some of the things that you need to cover in that part. Now, in the months of September and October, you have to start finalizing these documents. When I say finalizing, you need to be giving the finishing touches. Okay. You need to be gathering the transcripts from your universities and any other requirement documents that are needed to complete your application. Again, October to January is a crucial time to apply for universities that start in the following August. For universities that start in the month of September, October of the following year, you have some more time. You can push it until the months of Jan or Feb, but not later than that. Once you do your applications, you will start receiving admissions. Hopefully, all of you will get more than one admission. So then, you have the happy problem of deciding where you want to go. Again, at that time, I suggest that you look into the research program that interests you more, that excites you more, and then decide which university you want to go to. Okay. If it is a matter of financial considerations, then you have to see which university is giving you more financially. So those are some of the decisions that you will be taking in the months of March, April, May. If you unfortunately, if you don't get full assistantship, or if you don't, if you get only partial assistantship, or if you don't get any assistantship, then that is the time you need to start looking at external scholarships. You need to start looking at scholarships which are specifically awarded to PhD students, like the Google scholarship that was introduced recently. Those are the kind of things that you need to start researching, or you need to apply for education loans. So these are some of the things that you need to start investigating as soon as you get an admit and you know that you don't have an assistantship. Okay. Once you have these things in order, you need to inform your university that I'm going to come here to confirm your acceptance. And they will then send you the required documents which you will need for a visa if you are an international student. Okay. Okay, now that was the timeline. Like I said, the timeline is a little variable depending on which country you're applying to. So please talk to us if you have any questions. We have counselors who will be happy to discuss this process with you in detail. Now, what are the documents that you need in addition to whatever I have mentioned so far? So we already said that you need the academic transcripts, you need the statement of purpose, you need the research proposals, you need the letters of recommendation. If you are applying for a writing program or a journalism program or any of the linguistics program, you will also need to submit writing samples. If you are applying for any of the many of the programs, depending on the program that you're applying to, you may need to have a portfolio and things like that. So those are some of the things, again, we will help you with. PhD candidate normally will submit a CV, which is about 2 pages long. Okay. Again, there is some wiggle room there in the length, which we can then discuss in detail. Test scores, if needed, has to be submitted. Now, depending upon the program that you're applying to, depending on the PhD program that you're applying to, the tests may also vary. For example, if you're going to do a PhD in management, then you will need to take the GMAT and not the GRE. So these are again some things that we can clarify for you when you enroll with us. Okay. Now let's talk about the important thing. What is a research proposal? So like I've told you many times throughout the session that PhD means research. So it is very, very important that you do a research proposal along with your application packet. Now, what is the research proposal? It basically means you have to bring up a question or a problem that needs to be solved. So what are you planning to do research on? That will be your research topic. Then you have to explain or make a case on why it is worth researching and what is it going to achieve after you do the research. So that is the other thing you need to talk about. Once you have explained these and once you have solved the problem, you need to then come up with a plan to investigate it. How are you going to solve the problem? Now, I understand that, this is something that you're going to do. So I'm not saying that the plan that you're going to give for investigation is to be completely a bulletproof plan. That is, it has to work. No. A PhD is again an exploratory process. So sometimes I have known of cases where you have done your PhD defense, where you have actually said that I am going to do this, but at the end of it, it didn't work out. And then your defense is entirely about why it didn't work out. So again, it doesn't mean that everybody who has done a PhD has actually solved a problem, but they have investigated a problem and come up with solutions and explained why a solution works and why a solution does not work. So this is something that really needs to come out in your research proposal. Okay. Now, why is the research proposal important? Because the admissions committee that reads this proposal is then going to think of you as, okay, this is a person who can write research proposals. This is very important because one of the things that you will learn to do as a PhD student is write grants and proposals to asking for funding for your research program. Now, this is something that you will start in your PhD program itself and something that you will carry forward if you become an academic or a researcher, because you will always be having to ask for external funding. So this is I want to say a skill that you need to develop where you are able to articulate very well what is the plan for your research, why is it worth researching, and how will you investigate it. So this is very important. So reading your research proposal will show the admission committee that you can help in getting funds from institutions. You give a clarity to the selection committee about the type of work that you will do. And you are also going to convince the reader of the value of your research. So that is why a research proposal is very, very important. Okay. I hope it is clear why it is important. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box and I will get to them at the end of it if my team has not answered it already for you. Okay. Now the visa process. Again, I'm going to give you a very general information about the visa process because this is something, again, that varies country to country. And I don't want to spend time talking about the visa process as opposed to other things like I want to show you the types of students we have helped and things like that. Okay. So the visa process, like I said, varies for every country. But the basic documents that you will need are the admit letters. You will need a valid passport. In the case of US, you will have a specific document called as the I-20. If you have a scholarship, you need to put that in definitely because that is going to show that you don't need to spend any money out of your pocket. If you don't have a full scholarship or if you don't have any scholarship, then you will need the financial documents as well to show that your PhD is going to be covered by you, either by personal funds or loans or for external scholarships or something like that. Anyway, even if you have scholarship, we recommend that you show some funds because we want to make sure that they are convinced that if something goes wrong, you do have the funds to help you out, kind of a thing. At least tide you over for some period of time until your scholarship kicks in and those kind of things. There are some country-specific documents that will be needed, so that again will vary from country to country. In the case of US, you have to go for an appointment at the consulate, so you will need an interview confirmation letter. Other countries, you have to submit your application package and then the visa is granted at that point. Okay, so now let's do a little bit more interesting things. I actually show you some students who have achieved their dream of going to a PhD program. Okay. So first I have here is Tazim. He is from Bangladesh. You see that he has an excellent GPA and an IELTS score of 7.5. He has an average GRE score. Now, Tazim had done his master's in industrial engineering, industrial and production engineering, and he wanted to do a PhD in industrial engineering. Now, if you look at the research that he has done, you will see that there is a good mix and it is related to industrial engineering. He has also shown that he has the ability to do work with simulation softwares, design softwares, and all that, which also nicely tie in with his research area. He also has experience of as an assistant professor, which again helps to the university to see that he is a suitable teaching assistant. So he got an admission. He decided to go to University of Texas, Arlington, because he got a full tuition waiver there and he got a research assistantship of $2,000 per month. Okay. So normally when the PhD admissions and scholarships are given out, it comes with a tuition waiver as well as some kind of a stipend, which will help you with your living expenses as well. So like I said, all the universities want to make sure that you are not worried about finances and you can completely focus on your PhD program when you are there. Okay. So here I have an admit letter from Tazim that he has received along with his scholarship. Next, we have Sabi. He has a low GPA of 6.3, but he has a good GRE score. Now, he has completed his master's in Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore. If you see the projects that he has done, they are all related to his research. Okay. And he has done a variety of projects. He has done a research project and a couple of other industrial projects. He has also done some research problems in nonlinear programming. Again, that is again related to his research. And then he has successfully got a PhD in electrical engineering at University of Laval, again with a scholarship of 100,000 Canadian dollars, which covers his tuition waiver as well as a monthly stipend. Okay. Next, we talk about Shivam. He has again done his master's in chemistry from Indian Institute of Education and Research, Bhopal. If you see his the type of work that he has done a summer internship and an internship all in the related fields of his primary area of research. But there is a lot of variety as well. He has also completed his master's thesis, and he has an excellent GPA. Now, his TOEFL score is slightly low. Ideally, we recommend to students have a TOEFL score of above 100, and at least IELTS. If you're taking the IELTS, then at least have a band of 7. Now, the reason why we are saying this is because this helps you become a candidate for a teaching assistantship. Now, in the US, especially, if you don't have the necessary English language requirements, but you want to apply for a teaching assistantship, then they have additional English programs that you can take, give a test, and become eligible for a teaching assistantship. This is also a possibility in the US. Okay. Next, we have Pooja. She has a low GRE score, but a good IELTS score and a good GPA. She has done her MSc in microbiology from VIT Vellore. Now, again, sometimes we have observed that in the sciences, the GRE does not stand much value. So it's okay if you don't take the GRE, or if you have a low score, you don't report it, that is fine. If there is no requirement, you can completely skip the GRE. So which is the case that happened here. Her program did not require the GRE, but she took it anyway. She has a bunch of publications. She has done the research. She has also worked as an intern. And she has successfully got an assistantship at Rutgers University. Okay. This 33,000 is the stipend that she will be offered for 12 months, in addition to a tuition waiver. Okay. Suraj again has an interesting background. He has a master's in agriculture, and he wanted to do a PhD in soil and water sciences. Again, he has a GPA of 8.65 and a good TOEFL score, average GRE score. He again has a lot of research which bolsters his profile in the area of his interest. So that has helped him get a admission at University of Florida with a research assistantship of $25,000. Okay. Anushi, again, very interesting profile. She had done her MTech from environmental engineering at NIT Kurukshetra, and she wanted to do a PhD in public health. Now, this is a little bit of a change in major because she's done environmental engineering, but she had a very inspiring story in her SOP about how she wanted to reduce health issues that come out that happen due to pollution. And she had brought out this story very nicely in her SOP, where she had talked about real life problems, how it had affected somebody in her family, and how she really wanted to find a cure or work in this area. So that was a very nice transition that she did from environmental engineering into public health. She has got an she is currently at the Texas A&M University in College Station with a teaching assistantship of $2,200 per month and a tuition waiver. Okay, so I have her admit letter here as well. Ananta is again very good GPA, low TOEFL score, and okay average GRE score. But he has a lot of research experience. He has done his master's from IIT Tirupati, and he has also been a teaching faculty before that. So now that helped him get a teaching assistantship at the University of Illinois, Chicago, where he is currently pursuing his PhD in mechanical engineering. Asmita again has a master's in organic chemistry, and she has gone to Purdue University with a research assistantship. If you see again, her research and internships are related to the projects that she has interested in. Okay. Now I want to talk about some of our students who are currently with us and who will be going for their PhD in the next few months. So Muskan has a bachelor's in physics from the university, from a university in Hungary. She has a GPA of 4.3 out of 5 and an IELTS score of 7. The interesting thing about Muskan was that she wanted to apply for a master's, but the admissions committee saw that she had a very interesting profile, and she had written as one of her long-term goals is to do a PhD. So they went ahead and offered her a PhD right away, without a master's. and with the graduate assistantship as well. So she will be going to Rochester in the coming fall. I have another student, Navya, who has a GPA of 8.1, average GRE score, average TOEFL score. But because of her background, because of the amount of research and the projects that she has done during her undergrad and her master's, she was able to get an admission for a PhD program at the University of Notre Dame with the tuition waiver of $64,000 and a teaching assistantship of $37,000 as well. Okay. Saurdeep again is going for a PhD in chemistry at Penn State. Now, chemical engineering at Penn State. He has a master's from with civil and environmental engineering background. Again, he's doing a little bit of a change in major, but he has the right amount of research done in the related fields. He has completed projects and so on. And we have helped him articulate this part of his process in the SOP and the research proposals very well. So he has received a tuition waiver and a fellowship. Now, a fellowship essentially means that he doesn't have to do any work. So what he will be doing is in the first couple of years, he will be only focusing on the courses he needs to take, and he will be focusing on the qualifying exams and coming up with his research project. He will be talking to his professors over there. And once his fellowship expires, he will then be given an assistantship from one of the professors or from the research labs. Okay. We also have another student, Triya, who has finished her master's in physics, and she's going for a PhD in imaging sciences, again at the Rochester Institute of Technology. If you see that very average GRE score, good IELTS score, but average GPA, has done a number of projects, has won a couple of awards in the related areas. She has also been an active research projects in ISRO and so on, which has helped her get a PhD admit with an assistantship. Okay, so these were some of the case studies that I wanted to show you guys. To wrap up the session, I quickly want to give you an overview of how the Galvanize admission counseling works. As Sohail already told you, we provide end-to-end solutions. We start with the onboarding, that is based on the information you give us. We will assign you a counselor who will work with you on the process from day one. Okay, she will be able to answer your queries. She or he will be able to answer all your queries and all that. So that is called as the onboarding process. Once the onboarding process is done and we have understood your profile very well, we will be helping you shortlisting universities. Now here again, this is a very interactive process. It's not like they will come up with a shortlist and tell you these are the universities that you need to apply. Especially for PhD, we expect that the candidates themselves are motivated to do a lot of research and come back to us and tell, okay, these are my universities. We will also help you in shortlisting. You can always give your preferences. You don't have to entirely apply to the shortlist that we give you. So we want it to be a very interactive process, and it is your application process. So we want to make sure that you are happy with the choices you make. Once the shortlist is ready, we will then categorize them for you so that you know where your chances of admit are high. We will categorize them as ambitious, practical, and safe. And then we will help you with the application process. In addition to that, we will help you with your resume or CV. We will help you with the statement of purpose. Now, like I said before, each and every statement of purpose has to be customized for the university that you're applying. So you want to make sure that you don't make one statement of purpose and send it to all the universities. No, you need to customize it based on the research that is done there, based on the professors that you want to work with, and so on. So that is why we will help you there also. We will also, you will get the recommend letters from your recommenders, but we will fine tune them for you. We will help you out, draft and edit them as well. Once you have received the admits, we will help you analyze which admits are better, understanding your budget constraints, your preferences, your research interests, and so on. We will help you understand and finalize the visa process. We will provide you with videos on the application process so that you are ready. We will give you mock interviews if you're going to the US. Otherwise, if you're not going to the US, we will help you with the process on types of documents you need, how to apply, and those kind of things. If for any reason you don't have any assistantship or you have partial assistantship, we will also help you with the financing and with loan guidance with our loan partners and so on. Pre-departure, before you go, we will give you a pre-departure session, which will kind of help you acclimatize to the new country, because we have people in our system who have studied abroad and come back. So they will be able to guide you on the things that you need to know and give you some general guidelines based on our years of experience. So this is how the process here at Galvanize works. So again, you can check out our free apps. We have the GRE app, the SAT, and the vocab app. We also have test preparation this, so do reach out to us for that. Of course, we have online, we have admissions counseling as well, which I just explained to you. These are some of the perks and advantages for the test prep courses. And these are some of the value-added services. So like I already told you, we help you with education loan, with accommodation, with offer on TOEFL test fee, and so on. Okay, so that is the end of the session. I can see if you have any questions.
Hi, Jayanthy.
Yeah, hi, Science.
Thanks for the wonderful session. Like, I would request everyone to fill up the profile evaluation form, which I have shared on the chat box. This will help you to connect with the super admission counselor at Galvanize, and you can have a one-to-one discussion with them over a phone call. So I request everyone to fill the profile evaluation form. The link has been shared on the chat box. Generally, we give this service at $99, but since you are attending this session today, it's for free. You can just click on the link, fill few of the details, and get a chance to talk to a senior admission counselor at Galvanize Global Education.
All the questions have been answered, Sahil.
Yes, I guess everything has been answered. Like, thanks Sujaya, thanks Aarti for the wonderful Q&A session. Thanks Jayanthy ma'am for the wonderful session again. And see you guys. We have an upcoming event happening on Saturday evening where our senior expert Babu Nagendran will be talking about various scholarship opportunities available for international students. So head on to our website and just register for that event also. See you on Saturday, 5 p.m. Thanks, Jayanthy. Thanks, Aarti. Thanks, Sujaya. See you again.
All.
Bye bye.